Welcome to Chop Shop Motors. My name is Clay, and I thought I'd give you a little update on a truck that we haven't worked on for probably most of the last 8 months. We probably haven't touched it. So it's Chopper, this old 55 F100, and I thought I'd give you a quick update. And the update is that it goes in to get made into one color. So we did a little finagling with one of my hot rod buddies and did some wheeling and dealing, and he's going to take it into his shop and do a real quick makeover on it. Nothing fancy, so don't get your hopes up that it's going to be super stellar, but it will be one color. So not super stellar, but one color. So that's going to be the tagline. We're basically going to do a satin finish on it, and I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to be mountain green, which is what the truck, some of the pieces of the truck were. not all the truck. Some of the pieces of the truck were mountain green originally, so I thought that might be a cool tie-in. We'll paint it back that color. What I'm doing tonight is there are some holes I want to weld up. Colin is going to, Axis Paint is going to put a couple of patch panels, 2 cab corners in it, and then probably give it light dusting of color, and it will look substantially better than it does right now. So I changed the hood on it and put a better hood on it. The hood that was on it had some rust in the front. And if you followed along on this truck project, you know it was built out of leftovers and pieces and remnants. And so most of the parts on it were less than perfect. And that's probably giving them some extreme grace by saying less than perfect. So but now that it's a whole truck and it runs and drives and it's kind of fun, the iterations keep getting a little better and a little better. So we're going to iterate on it, and we're going to give it a coat of paint. It's still going to be what it is, but it'll look a lot nicer parked out in front of the shop, and it'll at least make it a little easier to give it some love. And so I'll kind of walk you around it and show you what areas I'm going to mess with tonight. So on the right side, the door is a really solid door. It came off of a big truck like a F350, and it's got a number of mirror holes drilled in it. And so I'm going to go ahead and weld up the mirror holes on this door and get them so that it makes it a little easier to do a little body work on it. As I go around, I'm not really doing anything on the front. It had the 2 holes here welded up for the front emblem. I re-drilled those. I pulled the grill off of it to get a little easier work back in there. This front fender has come off. I've removed it because the worst part of this cab was that lower cab corner. So that lower cab corner and this lower cab corner will get replaced, and that will make it'll make it substantially nicer when it's got a coat of paint on it to not have some rust peeking through. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to be welded up on it, but that's even at that point it's going to be far from perfect. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. We pulled the fenders off so the inside of the bed could get painted. There's some work that has to happen in there to make that all look decent. And I don't know. That's kind of it. There's not a ton to show on this scruffy old beast, but I wanted to at least give you a peek at kind of what the progress was. This is going to be a quick turnaround. He's going to have it for about a week, and then we'll get it back, and I'll show you some pictures of what it looks like once it's back. It's all one color. It's kind of a satin mountain green. Mountain green was the color that this particular cab was originally. So it's back to its original color, and I did some work. I did a little wheeling and dealing, and got the paint work done. We didn't do, part of the deal was just to make it look presentable. So when I was driving around the block or it was in the background, it didn't look like it was abandoned there. And I think this really does hit that exactly right on. So basically prep work, I welded up some holes in the doors. This door had some mirrors hanging on the outside of it at some point in its life because it came off of a big truck. So I welded up those holes. It had a little bit of a rash on the cab that I fixed. I didn't do a ton of other stuff. I mean, little piddly stuff here and there. I did a little work on the tailgate. As you may have seen if you watched the tailgate video, that tailgate was really rough to begin with. So, you know, every time I mess with it, it gets a touch better. I don't know that it'll get much better than it is right now. That's probably kind of its finished state. The goal of this was to really not do a ton of dismantling and treating it like you would a really nice hot rod, in that it's all taken apart, blown apart. Each piece is painted separately, then reassembled. We took a few pieces off of this. I did, if you recall from some of the early videos, the cab corners on this side of the cab were completely Swiss cheese. So I did put a couple cab corners on it, and that kind of filled the bill of having it not look too moth-eaten, and I'm super happy with that. Inside, the truck did get jammed, so kind of see that inside where the weather had been a little rough on it, it actually got painted back to that mountain green. The only piece that didn't get painted are the inside the doors, and so I need to go and get some paint matched up and then paint the inside the doors, just because I think it deserves to have that last little bit done. The dash and glove box are the factory colors. They look natural, and they haven't been repainted. They look have about the same amount of shiny as the hood does, and so have a good deal all the way around. Certainly not cherry by any means, so I'm not trying to make an illusion of, oh my god, it's so perfect now. But it is an interesting journey to come from being just some parts that really nobody would have wanted or didn't have as much value, to being a truck, which at least is kind of fun. So I welded up the fender hole that had the light on it at some point, turn signal. I welded up the cab corner that had an antenna in it. We changed the hood. The hood that's on it is it's kind of beat up, but it is healthy. So there's no rust in it, and that was sort of the goal, was to not have it be rusty. Front fender is relatively presentable. I mean, if you go around it, it would be a ton of work to make it perfect, but for what we were doing, it really turned out just exactly like I wanted. The other pieces, put some mirrors on it. I bought some used mirrors off of that old auction site, just so it had some mirrors on it, and so that worked out good. Custom cabs for the doors were on a set of doors I had, so I used them. The one door on the driver's side it came with it, so it felt like a good way not to have to fill the holes. And that's kind of the truck in a nutshell. I'll pop the hood for you. So under the hood is a stock 223 6-cylinder. You'll notice that if you watch some of the earlier videos, some of the build videos, it was pretty much as found. Nothing was too cleaned up, other than I did steam it and clean it and blast some of the years and years of gunk off of it. But other than that, it was pretty much as it was. Sadly, when I got it back from the painter, the truck, when I would start it, and this doesn't have anything to do with being painted, it has to do with just kind of the process of an old vehicle. It stuck a valve. It stuck an intake valve. And so I did a little work and got the intake valve freed up and got it to run again on all 6 cylinders, and then every time it would cool off, it would stick the valve. So I was a little frustrated that I had the truck almost where I could drive it around the block, and then the motor does something tricky. So I said, well, let's just pull the head off. I'll build the head real quick and put it back together. So that's what I did. That's why the head's painted. It's painted red, really only because it had been painted red before. And so I'm trying to take the path of least resistance. And so I cleaned it up, did a valve job on it. It had this kind of like varnish inside that was super sticky, and I'm thinking it probably is fuel related. So I hope that we don't have any more issues with it. But that was kind of the nature of pulling the head off. So I pulled the head off, did a valve job on it, cleaned everything up, and put it back together. And so let's see if it'll start. Okay. And that wasn't a cold start. I've had it running multiple times since, so no illusion that was a cold start. It's been sitting there for a long time. But that's pretty how these old motors run. They really do run pretty decent. They're not hot, but you don't have the valves plunged up in the head. They actually run pretty good. So that's kind of the running of it. Let's go around the block here. Driving along. It's about as good as it gets right here. Been a little finicky. Come up here and see if we can turn this corner with one hand. That'd be a sort of. Okay. I get 2 hands back on this. Well, test drive number 1 was a big fail. So I brought it back. As you can tell, it ran like crap. Had mid-range passage in the carburetor was obviously plugged up. It would accelerate and it would idle, sort of, but if you were going down the road, intermediate range, it was crappy. So I pulled the carburetor off and I rebuilt the carburetor, and as you can tell, it's running. I took it around the block. I tested it out this time first, and it's working. So let's go for a drive. So this truck is pre-cell phone technology. It is not really a single one-hand kind of drive. It takes two hands to operate one of these old trucks. It's not power steering, and so you got to manhandle a little bit. Then you got to shift it, and that's kind of keeps both hands busy. We're going to kind of cruise along here in a second. We'll go over the speed bumps in the neighborhood. Shifted a little fast there. It's usually pretty good into third, but that was a bit fast. See if we can stay away from the curb. Wave to the neighbors. Get some haulers from the road in this old truck. People love an old truck. Right to third just to kind of ease the videographer jiggle there. The video editor is probably going to be shaking her head when she gets this content done. That's alright. So there you have it. It's running, it's driving. It did do something yesterday when I started it after I had worked on the carburetor. The kind of what started the major problem was that it stuck a valve, and so I redid the head, cleaned everything up. It had tons of varnish in it, so everything was clean and fresh and worked really smooth. And after I put the carburetor on, that valve stuck again. So I don't know. It's the same valve, so there's no way it got the same spring on it that it had had before. But the springs could be a little bit light on pressure. But to be honest with you, if it gives me much more grief, I'll probably just move it to the end of the list and I'll do a small block swap on it and drop it in. Because I kind of dig the look of it, the green and the kind of rough around the edges. But honestly, I'm not going to play too much longer with the 6-cylinder and not being able to drive it. So that's kind of the scoop on this. The scoop and the skinny, the skip. And I'm Clay for Chop Shop Motors, and we'll see you on the next project.